Hi everybody, welcome to Paper Wishes Weekly Webisodes. I'm Lene Gehrig, and today I've got not one but two great collections from our friends at Paper Discovery from Practical Publishing. And the first one is the Underwater World, and it's like a pond collection. It's really amazing. This one has got cutting dies, beautiful little goldfish and frogs, and it's also got an embossing folder, which is a pebble pond embossing folder, and around the pond stamp set, and also vellum. Here is around the pond vellum papers that have all these great watery prints on them with bubbles and all kinds of plant life. Really cool. So that is the first collection that we have projects for. The next collection is called The Underwater World Beyond the Sea. So the Beyond the Sea has got, oops, lots of stuff in it. Here we go. It's got beautiful vellum with jellyfish and shells and gorgeous seahorses. You can see that in the light. And it's also got an embossing folder with water, an embossing folder with a pebble texture, which you'll get a better look at. It's got a wonderful stamp set, Beyond the Sea, and it's also got cutting dies. Gorgeous stuff. As you can see, lots to do, lots to see. So come play with us. All right, so we're back with the first card, and this is one that I did using the Underwater World, the Sea collection, Beyond the Sea, and it's got amazing stamps. What I did was, well, first let me start with the first thing I used, which was the embossing folder. So this embossing folder has beautiful shimmering water embossing folder, and I went ahead and I took that and I just put it on light blue pastel cardstock. And then I just added a little bit of yellow and a little bit of aqua blue to that, just to give it a little bit like the sun was shining down through it. That's what I tried to picture anyway. So I started with that and glued that to my card base. Okay, there we go. And then the next step was to stamp all of these beautiful images. I wanted to take a lot of the plant life here, and I stamped those on green and tan and brown cardstocks and even yellow. And then I used the Spectrum Noir tri-blend markers, and I used a little bit on the green. I used the dull green here and here and here, and then I used a little bit of orange ink pad on these two coral pieces. So that was the Cat IQ. It had red and orange with it. That made that easy. And then the fish, I colored those with yellow and turquoise Spectrum Noir pens. And then for my greeting, see if I can find it. Here it is. This is the Mini Expressions Get Well Soon cutting die, which is just a great one, especially with what's going on in the world right now, right? We want to send our friends some little cheer through the mail. So that was a great card to make. Now this next one, I'm actually going to build with you guys right here. And for the next card I used, let's move these out of the way, I used the Pebble embossing folder, and I used the Beyond the Sea die set, and I also used this beautiful vellum, and I happen to use this one right here, which I think is a jellyfish. All right, so let's get together. So many toys to play with today. And here are the cutting dies for this particular set, for the Beyond the Sea. So many, wonderful. It's got lobsters and shells, plant life, jellyfish, seahorse. I don't know about you, but I'm just loving jellyfish and seahorses lately. Crabs, turtles, more plants, more like seaweed, and lots of shells. There we go. So there's 15 pieces there, 15 separate dies. And then I also just cut my card into a 5-inch square. And then I used, for the next part, to cut a window here, I just opened that up, and I used the 10 square and scalloped cutting dies from hot off the press. And I just used this square right here. It's sort of the third from the smallest. Put that right here on point, and then ran it through my machine. Okay, and then took another one like this, and this is just slightly smaller, and I used the same die on this piece. Then I used the embossing folder. Take this out. Then I took the embossing folder, placed this inside, ran that through. Oops, and I got this piece, which I then just took my blender brushes right here, and I used this Pebble alcohol-proof dye ink, and it didn't have to be Pebble. It could have, I mean, it doesn't have to be alcohol-proof. That just got it. I just used that one for the color, rather. Okay, so then this is what the Pebble embossing folder looks like in a larger piece. You can see that, lots of texture. It's really cool. All right. Okay, so then once I had this embossed, move that out of my way, and I just took a piece of this jellyfish vellum, and I'm going to put that right there behind it. Some glue to glue all this together. There we go. That's going to go right there. And then I'm going to glue this, and really you're just making sure to align that opening. So actually, you know what would be better? Here we go. We're going to, now that I have glue all over that, it's okay, don't panic, we'll fix it. We're going to glue this here first to make sure that the vellum is centered on the card. Then we're going to take this, because this needs to be centered with the opening. Nope, I want it just right. So you have to kind of go around. There we go, because that's how I cut it. We want to make sure that it's aligning the same way. There we go. All right, now I've got a Be Unique cutting die for the greeting, and this is from Mini Expressions. And this is out of blue, pastel blue cardstock. Put a couple dots there. And we're going to glue that to the center, and that's because with all of our little die cut images of our sea creatures, all of these little guys, I've got them all cut here. Those are going to get glued around all of this. Okay, and I colored them just using the Cat Eye cues like this. And I'll show you, I just took the orange and I basically just used a lot of tan, green, yellow, and blue cardstock, and then I just added another layer of color. This is brown cardstock, and I'm taking orange and just putting that around the edge. So not doing a tremendous amount of tricky inking on this at all. Here's red. This was cut from a tan cardstock, and I'm just inking around the outside edges and kind of using the surface to go in a little bit. Here, this one was from yellow. I just did that on the tips. Okay, so you get the idea. Here's one that was cut from yellow, and I just did orange along the top. All right, so here's some seaweed that I cut from yellow, and then I inked it with some green so that it would kind of want to use colors that are complementary to the cardstocks that you choose, but you also want them to have enough contrast so that they really show up. So I don't want to put yellow on yellow. Instead, I did orange on yellow. All right, so now we've got seaweed down, and we want to put a little bit of greenery there. And on the other side, I'm going to put this great coral. Okay. Oh, I forgot a piece of seaweed. You guys all going, hey, don't forget that. Okay. You can just stick it right under here. Right. All right, now we're gonna do, whoop, my Be Unique is a little crooked. I just noticed that. That's not ideal, but we'll just work with it. All right, so we've got our seahorse there. And I'm going to put a little bit of foam tape on here as well. I should show you, I've got this giant wheel of foam tape. Look at that. That's huge. Debbie and I have been working on that for a while, and that is 50 yards or 150 feet. Now, ladies, we do get calls occasionally. Somebody will get that in their order and they'll say they were confused on the measurements. So you just have to remember that 50 yards equals 150 feet. It's something we all learned a long time ago, and if you're not somebody who sews, then you may not remember that part. Okay, we're going to put a little bit of that there. Okay, so I've got my foam tape, and I'm going to start putting some of my critters with the foam tape on there. There we go. So cute. And we don't want to forget about the inside. So on the inside, I've got some vellum that was left over when I cut that down. And you can just put a little dot of glue. It'll dry clear on the corners. And I find that if you just kind of flatten that out, that glue's not going to show at all. And then let's see how that looks if we put those right there. Will that show through our window? Yeah, it does. I like that. Okay, so we're going to put blue shell right there. Okay, there you go. Wow, I've got some yellow tape on the inside of that. There. Okay, so that was fun to put together, and you have a cute little vellum window there. All right, so that is the Under the Sea collection. Now let's take a look back with our pond collection. Here we go, and remember all the great vellums that came with. Here we go, and here's a card. Here we go, that I made using some watercolor paper. Go. So I just took a sheet of watercolor paper and I cut it down to kind of nest inside the 6.5 by 5 card. And then I just did a little coloring with this. Here we go. I'm going to show you how I did this quickly. So I used the water reactive dye ink. This one is Lagoon. And then I also used another brown water reactive dye ink, which I forgot to bring. That's okay, we're just going to do the bottom part here. All right, now because this is going for a really dark color, I'm not going to blot. Usually I would go like this and then blot so you don't get big rings on here. I don't even care. I'm just going to get this color on here because we're going to do that little water technique where you get the water, you get this color on the water reactive, and then it make great water droplets. And I did this last week on a vlog and it was a big hit, so I'm going to show you how to do it again, just in a different way. All right, there you go. Now I also want to add a little bit of yellow. Okay, this one is Honey Pot. And this is also water reactive. And I'm just going to go right here. Just like the sun is just hitting that just right, just like that. And now that I'm thinking about it and talking, I realize that my top part here was not a water reactive. It's just a alcohol-proof pebble. So because we're not going to get any water on the shore. So this is the bottom part is supposed to be the water or the pond, and the top part is just supposed to be like the sand. Forgotten about that part. I do so many cards that from one day to the next, sometimes I'm like, well, what did I use on this one? Okay. There we go. Okay, so we have our pond water and we have our sand. Now I'm just going to take, last time I used a paintbrush to just tap this on. You just also spray a little water, take a little water on your hand. You're just going to drop it. Can't even really see it yet. There we go. And then you want to make sure you use a dry tissue or a dry paper towel. And you're just lifting off that water reactive ink. You're just lifting that ink right off. Okay, so that makes cool little like water bubblies in your pond. And then I just stamped from this point on, I went ahead and stamped these cattails and this watery grass stuff and then the rocks. I stamped those directly on here, and then I just used my Spectrum Noir pens and colored that because the background is pretty neutral. I didn't have to worry about that. And then these pieces right here I stamped separately on white cardstock that I showed you earlier, and then I colored those with the tri-blend markers. And just this one I actually stamped here first because you see it's got these little tiny legs. I stamped here, then I stamped it again, cut it out, and glued it, so I didn't have to worry about cutting out around all those little feet and everything. All right, now the last card I have for you is a really cool one that Debbie made. Here we go. There we go. Look at this, it's a great shaker card. Look at that. It's got a treasure chest in there and some goldfish. I just think this is spectacular. So I'm going to show you how she put this together, okay? So she started off with, oh, so much stuff, you guys. Here we go. She started off with this embossing folder, the Pebble Pond cut and embossing folder. So this cut out the center as she embossed it. Isn't that great? And then she just took a piece of cardstock to mat that with right here, okay? And then you can just use another cutting die from the square cutting dies. Here we go. One of these larger ones here. Or you could just use your paper trimmer and cut out a square right in the center of that one so that it cuts out right there, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and finish cutting this little piece. She got it all started for me. Wasn't that great? She got it all prepped for me. All right, so this is how this goes. Black's not going to show in the black, so we're going to do it like this. And she added a little bit of color first here. She just took, you could use any kind of black. This is waterproof dye ink, but it doesn't matter. We're not, if it's water reactive or waterproof. We're going to blot this right here. And we're just going over the surfaces to give a little dimension to those stones. Makes that pop just a little bit more. You guys, look at that. Stamp, stamp. All right, there we go. Oh, I got a little smudgy down there because I got out of sequence. There we go. All righty. Now, we're going to glue this to the back of our little black frame. And Debbie said she did this because she wanted to make it a little bit more substantial for her shaker card, which I agree. That made it really much firmer by doing that. All right, so then we've just got some acetate, which you can buy by the sheet at paperwishes.com. It's like 50 cents, and you can get about 4 cards made with it. So definitely take advantage of that. And we're just going to put glue this, and there we have our acetate. All right, just like that. Got to clean up my mess a little bit here. All right, and then when we get to this point right here, okay. So then when we get to this point here, we're going to take our big tape roll, okay, and I'm going to cut a big long piece off of that because we're going to put tape right here around the square edges. And we're doing this because we want to keep everything kind of sealed in. So we're making a frame around the frame of foam tape. So as you can see, I've got my foam tape all the way around the inside edges of my black frame. And I should mention this black frame was 6 by 6, okay? 6 by 6 black frame. And now we get to fill it with all kinds of goodies. So we've got sparklets that can be put in here, beautiful, and also this great product, this Moxie confetti, tube confetti, and this color is, what color? Primary. Well, that's handy. So as you can see, Debbie put all kinds of cute little things on the back here. She also put vellum. Okay, so I'm getting ahead of myself. So she had a 12-inch by 6-inch piece of gray cardstock. She scored that. This is going to be the back of the card, okay? But she also put some vellum bubble paper on there, and then she put like the goldfish and the frogs and the little treasure chests and things like that on there as well, okay? So we won't take the time to do that. We're going to deal with what's in here. And so she sprinkled a little bit of the tube confetti in. Go. Like that. And sprinkled in some of the sparklets. This is Island Breeze. There we go. And then took her 6 by 6. Now you want to make sure that you're going in the right direction with this, okay? So her card opened from the bottom, so we're okay. We're going to put this right on the top there, aligning the gray with the black edges and hoping that works out fine. Hey, that worked out fine. Okay, so like I said, the only thing is we didn't include on the back of our card the vellum or the little die cut pieces that she did, just for time's sake. But works great. See, like that. And then she just added a little bit of seaweed pieces and of course her sentiment. So lots to show you today, lots of fun with both of these collections. So I would encourage you to check out on the right side of our screen. There's going to be 2 money savers. You can check out either the Pond or the Beyond the Sea collection. They're wonderful. They're great tools to have in your craft stash. And if you're watching us on YouTube, the links to the money savers are directly below in the description box. And also there's a link to paperwishes.com where you can see lots more videos and all kinds of fun goodies to play with. So thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.